Sat Sri Akal and good evening, everyone. My name is Randeep Singh Sarai. I'm the Member of Parliament for Surrey Centre and the Parliamentary Secretary to Veterans Affairs Canada and also the Associate Minister of Defence.
I'm Sonia Sidhu, Member of Parliament from Brampton South. Before we begin, the Liberal Sikh Caucus would like to thank each and every one of you to coming to Ottawa from all across Canada to join us on the Hill for this celebration. And special thanks to the media attendees for being here with us today to cover the incredible event. As we celebrate Sikh Heritage Month in Canada, we take the time to recognize Canadian Sikh who came before us and for their great contribution that they helped make in various aspects of our society.
As Sikhs have been in Canada for over 125 years, we have a deep history with the arts and particularly music, as no person can resist the hypnotic beat of a dole, the trance of a tumbi, or the electrifying energy of Bhangra or Gidda. Canadian artists have now taken it to new heights by topping the Billboard charts to performing at the Junos.
To highlight where our music and dance has progressed, we have 5X, a charity serving young South Asians in Metro Vancouver. Their vision is to build a world where they belong and thrive. They do this by hosting their 5X Fest, supporting emerging artists and outstanding digital media by young South Asians and for young South Asians.
Today with us we have Harpo Munder and Pavneet Tour from 5X who have prepared a short video on the emergence of Punjabi music in Canada and its influence globally. Let's turn to the screens above.
Punjabi music holds rich roots in history. Traditional Punjabi music from our parents' generation included folk and classical sounds that centered around the idea of storytelling, celebrations, and folk Punjabi dances. In the 1980s, there was a shift from traditional instruments to pop beats as the emergence of Bhangra started to rise in popularity among the Punjabi diaspora around the world. Bhangra evolved into a fusion of traditional Punjabi folk music with elements of hip-hop, reggae, and electronic sounds. The increasing popularity of the Punjabi music industry began to grow as modern Punjabi songs adapted to incorporate elements of Western music in order to appeal to the current generation. New subgenres such as Punjabi hip-hop and Punjabi rap popped up. The popularity of this new wave of music has been fueled by the growth of fans across the world, with a lot of that industry holding its roots right here in Canada. Some of the biggest hits within the last decade of the Punjabi music industry have been created right here in Canada. These collaborations have helped to further broaden the appeal of Punjabi music by introducing new audiences to this genre, as well as marked chart-breaking records in Canadian music history. 4 of the top 10 tracks in India in 2023 were made by Punjabi Canadian artists. Many of these artists come here first as international students, as they see more opportunities for themselves in this country.
In 2015, I moved here with 2 suitcases and 1 dream. And that was just to do something that can inspire people back home and the immigrants that are coming to this country. So I'm really excited to perform here. And I'm happy that finally this brown skin is getting recognized.
These artists continue to amass billions of streams on music platforms around the world. However, despite all of their measurable success, it's taken the entire nation a long time to recognize and support these artists who have been proving themselves on their own terms. For over 20 years now, our organization has dedicated our efforts to supporting and elevating the South Asian youth diaspora with their pursuits in creative industries. At 5X, we're cultural producers, and our mission is to build a world where we belong and thrive. Adapting with time, 5X Fest now acts as a platform that showcases brown artists of all mediums by providing a stage to emerging artists as well as a bridge for the new youth who are exploring themselves as hybrid identities. Our events often host artists who go on to the global stage and international festivals. We are advocates, lobbying for access, opportunity, and recognition for these hybrid artists, while also acting as a steward for their unique cultural identity in a globalized world. Punjabi music is now one of the most widely recognized and celebrated music genres in the world today, and has become a global phenomenon on social media platforms by crossing cultural and language barriers, appealing to audiences around the world. It goes without saying that the rise of Canadian Punjabi artists adds to our economy and the blueprint of Canada's culture, as the power these artists hold is unmatched.
Wow, what a great presentation by Harpo and Bhavneet of 5X. Let's give a big round of applause to the beautiful women.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harpo. I'm the Executive Director of 5X. This is my colleague Bhavneet Tour, and she's the Marketing Director. And Bhavneet and I talk often about what the point of the work is, that we do. And like many other young Punjabi kids, young Sikh kids, we both grew up in a world where we didn't know who we were. I'm somebody whose parents came from Punjab in the 80s, and I was born in Canada, but I never knew if I was Punjabi, if I was Canadian, if I was being too brown, if I was being too Western. And so many of us didn't have a world where we could fit in and belong. And so at the root of what we do at our organization is fostering belonging. And I'm sure all of you can agree with me that being here today, being here in this building, feels like we belong, and we're moving towards belonging. So I want to say thank you to the entire Liberal Caucus for having us here, for giving us a chance to share the impact that the artists are making from our country. And I ask all of you to really support the young people, like myself, like Bhavneet, like other young people who are in the room, because all we're trying to do is find out who we are, and we have all of you to look at to help us do that. So thank you so much, and thank you to MP Sarai for inviting us. And it means a lot. Both myself and Bhavneet are from Surrey, and we're really happy to be here and represent Surrey today. So thank you.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਲੱਖ ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈ ਨਾਲੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਸਾਜਣਾ ਦਿਵਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੁਬਾਰਕਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ The Sikh Heritage Month Act received royal assent and became Canadian law 5 years ago. This achievement comes after over a century of when Sikhs landed on Canadian shores in 1897. Led by military men that included trailblazers like Kesar Singh Risaldar Major in the British Indian Army, who was credited as being the first Sikh settler in Canada. As settlement continued, Sikh Canadians fought through racism and discrimination to be accepted as Canadians. Barriers had to be broken. Someone had to be first. Leaders like Naginder Singh Gill, who lobbied the province of British Columbia and the federal government to change discriminating voting laws. Or Maninder Singh Badiyal, the first Canadian of Indian descent to vote in a federal election. Fast forward, 2024, and Sikh Canadians are still breaking through. And joining me today to share another breakthrough is someone I came to be friends with through his various roles in media on Omni. He's joined with his colleagues, Hockey Night in Punjabi, and now as the official color commentator of our hometown Vancouver Canucks. Pause for applause. Yes, deserves it. I have with me today Randeep Janda, Gurpreet Sayan, and Amrit Gill, who you all see on TV through commentary on Hockey Night in Punjabi, Hockey Night in Canada, and other radio outlets. So Randeep, if you could please come join us.
First of all, thank you very much for having all of us here. It's an honor to be involved with this event. And thank you on behalf not of only on Amrit and Gurpreet and myself, but our team back in Vancouver as well. It's an honor to be, first of all, discussed as somebody who's breaking a barrier. Beyond that, I want to talk about, we're in a position now in society that there's so many firsts, but how do we get there? There's a lot of people that came before us, and acknowledging those pioneers, acknowledging Punjabi Sikh community members that without Robin Bawa, who was the first NHL player of Punjabi descent to make it in the NHL, we're probably not calling this game. Before him, from other communities as well, having that opportunity to break through had a trickle-down effect on us too. So ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਏ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਾਇਨੀਅਰ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਮਿਲ 'ਚ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂ ਰੇਲ ਰੋਡ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਅਸਰ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਸਾਡੇ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ, we can't do what we do. So I want to acknowledge that this is something that's extremely important. And on top of that, we are on air because we're inspired by the community. Every single day, a lot of you here in the building today, in your profession, whatever it may be, we inspire each other. And that's एक खासियत है साडी community बारे जो कि भावें तुसी जेड़ी मर्जी फील्ड 'ਚ आ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ support ਮਿਲਦੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ community ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ show ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਸੀ. We could not operate as a show without the support of the community, support of stakeholders, and I want to thank everybody. Early pioneers sacrificed so that we could get moving and we could thrive today. So it's one of the things that as a Punjabi Sikh, that's something we have to acknowledge, and that's why today is so important. That's why Sikh Heritage Month is so important, where we can look back at the contributions and celebrate them, but ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੀ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ how can we as a community inspire the future generation. I thought Harpo made a great point about, coming from Surrey. The last 15, 20 years in Surrey, the amount of innovation, and same goes for Brampton, the amount of talent coming out of there in every field is truly inspiring. So if we can help that in the media landscape, where maybe somebody watches us and the work that we do and say, ਜੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਹੈ hockey ਦੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ 'ਚ, well, you know what, we've done our job. And on top of everything, I just want to say thank you for including us. Sikh Heritage Month means a lot to us as individuals. The act, of course, is such an important thing, but Vaisakhi on the Hill. My dad came to Canada in 1971. If somebody would said, Canada di Parliament te Vaisakhi manauni a, akhand path utte hona, I don't think he would have ever believed it. But today, his son is on Parliament, acknowledging and attending that event. That's something, and we should all be proud of that. Once again, I just want to say thank you. We prepared a little video to give you a little bit of flavor of what we do and also what Sikh Heritage Month means to us. Please have a look.
Brampton, Edmonton ਅਤੇ Toronto, McDavid ਅਤੇ Matthews ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਟਾਕਰਾ ਹਾਕੀ ਨਾਈਟ ਤੇ। ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਹਾਕੀ ਨਾਈਟ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ।
ਲੱਗਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਵਿੰਟੇਜ ਡੋਮਿਨਿਕ ਹੈਸ਼ਕ ਵਾਂਗੂ, ਟੀਮ ਦੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਰੀਬਾਉਂਡ ਤੇ ਕਰ ਗਿਆ ਗੋਲ। 60 ਗੋਲ ਆਸਟਨ ਮੈਥਿਊਜ਼ ਲਈ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਿੱਤੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ।
The Sikh Heritage Month Act is such an important accomplishment as it highlights the contributions that Sikh Canadians have made to Canada in every field all across this great country, which is important for the here and now, but also for building an inclusive Canada for future generations.
Sikh Heritage Month is very important for young people like myself to understand all the things that the generations before me went through. That way I can pay it forward and create a better future for the generations ahead.
Inclusivity can have many forms. In relation to our show, Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi edition, we serve a purpose in preserving the Punjabi language through our broadcast, which is not possible without the support of platforms like the Sikh Heritage Month Act.
We're proud Canadian Sikhs, and we're honored to have the month of April for Sikh Heritage.
Now I'm going to introduce two more trailblazers. Harjit Sajjan, the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, President of the King's Privy Council and Pacific Economic Development, the MP for Vancouver South, and one more. And the youngest Sikh woman to be elected to the House of Commons. Please welcome the Member of Parliament to Brampton West, for Brampton West, and the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Persons with Disability, Kamal Khera.
Well, good evening, everyone. Sat Sri Akal te ji aaya nu. Come on. We're celebrating Sikh Heritage Month. Before we begin, we'd just like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the unceded territory of the Algonquin people.
And I just want to also, ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ. I'm speaking a little bit of Punjabi here just because Kamal and I have this little rivalry going, whose Punjabi is better. Okay, so you're going to be the judge.
I think ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਪਾਠ ਤੇ ਆਏ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ ਹੋਣਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ is way better than ਹਰਜੀਤ ਭਾਜੀ. Come on, I think ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ.
No, ਸ਼ਹਿਰੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਪਿੰਡ ਤੋਂ, okay?
And of course, the celebration this year are particularly special because we are celebrating the 5th anniversary of Sikh Heritage Month right here in Canada. And let me just say, none of that would have been possible. It would have been possible if it wasn't for the incredible leadership of the Sikh caucus right behind you. And with that, also, in particular, our good friend, we call him our Paji, we call him our uncle, but of course, MP Sukh Taliwal, for the leadership he showcased by working alongside all parties and passed a bill in the House of Commons that made Sikh Heritage Month a reality in Canada. The only other country in the world, guys, Canada.
I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge all our ministers and members of parliament who are here today, because they represent a very diverse community. And I know when issues of the Sikh community pop up, they are also alongside us. I want to acknowledge all of them for what they do on your behalf. So thank you to all of you.
And, you know, when we talk about the Sikh history in Canada, let's also remember, as the previous speakers have talked about, that it has also not been easy. It has been a long road to get to this space and to this time. It is one that was forged through the struggles and pains of our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors, all the individuals, the giants whose shoulders right now that we sit on. And I think that the history and the contributions of our people are so many and touch every corner of our province and our country. But sharing these stories and achievements so that they're not forgotten, we know it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes each and every one of us.
And the struggles that we talk about, and many have already talked about it, we have artists who are celebrating our culture to the world. We've seen now how we get to celebrate hockey in a very unique way, where I remember my own mother, she couldn't obviously understand English, but she'd watch the hockey game with us, and now finally she can actually understand it. And now more Punjabi Sikh players are getting involved. And one of the things I do want to take the opportunity to acknowledge, that in this room alone, that many of you have been part of that legacy to give us this opportunity for us to be in Parliament. I want to acknowledge, there's so many of you to acknowledge, but I know there's many people in the police here, military, doctors, lawyers, and the community leaders and mentors to all of us. I want to say thank you. And the other thing I also want to say is, we cannot rest on our laurels. We have a very vibrant history of sacrifice, standing up for others. And we need to celebrate that history, but we need to continue to make this history. So the challenge to the younger generation, and you are already inspiring us, is what are you going to do to live up to that legacy that our grandparents and their generation did for us? We are standing here not only because of them. For us, it was easy. And the reason I say this, just imagine when they came here. Imagine the taxi drivers, driving trucks and so forth. But in the past, it was even much more difficult, and you know the history of the Komagata Maru. It's because of their sacrifice. Just imagine the passengers of the Komagata Maru, when they were forced to leave by the regiment that I would command 100 years later. Would they have thought that? Would they have thought that right now would be in Parliament right now? It's because of their sacrifice. And we need to live up to that sacrifice, each and every one of us.
And when you talk about the accomplishments of the Sikh and Punjabi community, and I think it's really important to reinforce the fact that it is Canadian accomplishments that we're talking about. Because when you talk about Sikh history, it is Canadian history. And I think Sikh and Punjabi culture has brought to the forefront of public consciousness in a way that our younger selves could not imagine. You know, I think of trailblazers like Baltej Singh Dhillon, who broke barriers as the first Dastar-wearing Sikh RCMP officer. You know, we think of artists like Jasmeet Raina, Karan Aujla, who are making mark in the entertainment industry. We think of athletes like Arshdeep Bains, who are living the Canadian dream of being an NHL player. You think of journalists like Neetu and Ramneek, who are sharing important stories. But of course, absolutely, a big round of applause to all of them. And I think more importantly, we think of the humanitarians and activists every single day that are working hard and fighting for some of the most vulnerable in our communities and around the world. The list is growing every single day and every single corner in our country.
So I just want to take this opportunity again to thank all of you. The Seva, and now as the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, I see the disasters that are taking place in our country. Almost every disaster, you see the Gurdwara taking part. Khalsa Aid, and many other organizations. And that value is what who makes us as Sikhs. You are living that. And I just wanted to, again, take this opportunity to thank you for this, because this is going to be another bad season, and Canadians are going to need help. And again, it's not just a Sikh value, it's a Canadian value, as Kamal just said.
You know, for those who were there earlier this year, in the day when we had our 3-day Akhand Sahib Path, and it really gave us an opportunity to reflect and talk about, because in Sikhi, you know, we truly are guided by our values. And I think Sikh Heritage Month, we are truly guided by those core values of Sikhi and Guru's teachings every single day. The values of equality, the values of humanity, the values of unity, that we not only overcome the barriers in front of us, but we have helped build a more equitable and inclusive Canada. And this is because the values we know as Sikhs, these are the same values that we hold close to us as Canadians. And I think it's so important that we continue on this journey to talk about the work that we're doing, but it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for each and every one of you. Because from day one, our community has stood shoulder to shoulder with each and every one of us to make sure we're continuing to paving the path forward for the future generations.
And let's not forget, the challenges still remain. Yes, it's gotten better. We have succeeded. We have built big homes, created industries, become some income from the movie industry, music, and other arts. But still challenges remain. And this is something we as a community need to be cognizant of. We have this voice now that is thundering here in Ottawa. We need to make sure that our voice continues, because we as Canadians have that right to have this voice. But it takes a team, it takes effort, and the right team to making sure that we have this voice. And this is a very important one. As challenging times that we face right now in our country and even outside, we need to always remember this. How do we make sure that we maintain our voice? How do we make sure that our younger generation, when they come up to make a choice, to break those next barriers, that voice is going to continue? So your support is absolutely essential. So we cannot rest on our laurels. We need to celebrate our success, but we need to making sure that we continue the taraqi that our generations before us has started.
So tonight, on behalf of the government, we want to wish you and thank you for your presence and support as we celebrate Vaisakhi and Sikh Heritage Month. And it is with that, gives me an immense pleasure to have someone someone who has always stood shoulder to shoulder with Sikhs across Canada, someone who has had the courage to speak the truth even when others have covered away, and someone who truly embraces our shared values of equality and unity. Please join me in welcoming our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Happy Sikh Heritage Month. Happy Vaisakhi. Merci Kamal et Harj pour cette introduction. It is a real pleasure to be here with you all tonight. It's great to be here with you and with our amazing Liberal Sikh caucus and our amazing Liberal caucus. But it's mostly great to see so many of you here tonight come from every corner of the country. The occasion to celebrate Vaisakhi, the occasion to celebrate Sikh Heritage Month is an important one, and being able to give a special shout out to Sukh Dhaliwal, who 5 years ago passed the private member's bill to recognize Sikh Heritage Month unanimously in the House of Commons. It was the first country in the world to recognize Sikh Heritage Month, and it demonstrates the extent to which unanimous passage means all Canadians understand how important this community is to Canada, to Canadians, and to the future we're building every single day. I still remember one of my first conversations with Sukh, with Harj, with others as a young MP, where we talked about the values of Khalsa, the values of Sikhism, and I understood that principles of service, of compassion, of justice, of respect that are core to Sikhism are actually core aspirational values for all Canadians and for Canada. And that is why Canada has benefited so immensely from all the contributions of the Sikh community, and why when we celebrate Sikh Heritage Month, we're really just celebrating Canadian values at the same time. Because Sikh Canadians have been an important part of our history for generations. From working in the lumber mills to logging, forestry, and farming, you toiled in the vast land of Canada. Sikh Canadians worked on the railways, and they served Canada in the First and Second World Wars. Today, Canada has one of the largest Sikh diasporas in the world, close to 800,000 Canadians of Sikh heritage. But that's why, as was pointed out earlier, Sikh history in Canada isn't just Sikh history, it's Canadian history, and it runs through everything we do together. Les Canadiens Sikhs sont des pionniers dans bien des domaines, que ce soit la science, l'art ou les affaires. Dans les dernières années, des Canadiens Sikhs ont été renommés juges, sénateurs et bien sûr ministres. Mais ce n'est pas juste le travail de 9 à 5 que vous faites. C'est aussi votre générosité incroyable pour nos communautés en soutenant les banques alimentaires, les refuges et les organismes de bienfaisance. Sikh Canadians make it clear that diversity truly is one of Canada's greatest strengths. Well, this weekend, people will get together to celebrate Vaisakhi. As the holiest day of the year in the Sikh faith, Vaisakhi marks the creation of Khalsa and the beginning of the spring harvest. This is a moment of practice seva, the act of service. It's a moment to be kind and compassionate, values deeply embedded in the Sikh community. Vaisakhi, c'est la célébration du renouveau de la communauté. C'est un moment pour se rassembler et regarder vers l'avenir. C'est une célébration qui arrive au bon moment pour notre gouvernement, parce qu'on va justement présenter notre nouveau budget la semaine prochaine, qui va donner une chance équitable à chaque génération. Next week, we'll be releasing Budget 2024, and it's a budget that'll be focused on building more housing, creating more jobs, making life more affordable, and helping families get ahead. It's a budget focused on building a better and fairer future for every generation, something that I know matters deeply to this community, for whom family and working hard to build a strong future is at the heart of everything you do. My friends, many of you gathered here today have called Canada home for decades. Some of you may have moved here indeed when my father was Prime Minister. You saw the optimism, opportunity, and promise that existed on our shores. And every day, you help make Canada the country we know and love. And that's why Canada and all Canadians will always stand with you and defend your rights and freedoms as Canadians as you continue every day to make Canada better in so many different ways. We will always defend this community. So together, let's keep breaking down barriers faced by Sikh Canadians through measures like renewing our anti-racism strategy. Let's continue to stand strong on the world stage for Canadian values and the rules-based order. Let's keep making our country even more inclusive, vibrant, and prosperous. As you all know, Canada is the best country in the world. Let's keep making it even better. Happy Sikh Heritage Month. Happy Vaisakhi. Vaisakhi Dian. Lakh lakh Vadaya. Merci mes amis. Can I get you to sign this?